Okay.
Another is to may record.
I have my notes here, so I will be doing I'll be reading it out and also explaining at the same time. Reason why I said everyone should get their writing materials. And we are going to start now. I'm not waiting for anyone again. So if you're with your writing materials, please bring them out because I'm about to start. And everyone, please turn on your video. Please. Thank you. Turn on your video and turn off your speaker, please. Thank you very much. So, are we ready? Please, if you're ready, just raise your hands. Are we ready? Can I start? Okay. I hope you all can hear me clearly. Can you all hear me clearly, please? Okay, okay. That's good. All right. Just hold on. Okay. So everybody, you're welcome to today's workshop. Like I said, from the sorry, from the title of this workshop, it's all about from idea to impact as writers. And this workshop is not only for fiction writers, as long as you're a writer, if you're into screenwriting, if you're into nonfiction, if you're into short stories, copywriting, articles, as long as you have characters, like you're writing about people or a certain thing, you are welcome to this workshop. So please write this down. The foundation of today's class alone, the foundation is from idea to emotional core. From idea to emotional core. Core is spelled CORE. That's the foundation of today's class. And we are going to talk about finding the emotional spine of your story. I repeat, finding the emotional spine of your story. So this is today's topic, and we are going to talk about this in deep details. We are going to talk about it a lot, and I will try my best to cover up everything in the limited time that we have because due to members still joining, we started late. So I'll try my best to, cover it all. So the learning objective, you can write this down if you want to, but it's not a must. The learning objective of this workshop is that participants will understand how to transform raw ideas into emotional grounded stories. To transform raw ideas into emotional grounded stories by identifying characters' motivation, emotional wounds, and narrative purpose. I will come again. To transform raw ideas into emotional grounded stories by identifying character motivation, emotional wounds, and narrative purpose. So, um, everyone should write on their notes opening and context. This is a subheading, opening and context. As I read out from my notes, I'm going to take my time to explain. So please, as I'm teaching today's class, as I teach, if you come across anything you don't understand or you have a question you would like to ask, please write it down so that during our Q&A session, you'll be able to, ask the question. But for now, I'm going to focus mainly on teaching. So when it's time for you to ask questions, you're going to ask the question when it's um the Q&A section. So please, I can you all hear me? I'm so sorry. Can you all hear me? You can identify by, saying hi. I just want to be sure. Or you can just wave. Um, I just want to be sure that you all can hear me, please. Okay, okay, that's good. Okay. Welcome to today's class. Today marks the foundation of everything we will build together, no matter the kind of book you write, romance, fantasy, thriller, or any type of nonfiction. Every powerful story shares one thing in common, which is an emotional core that feels real. I'm going to explain this, so you can just write this down, but I'm going to explain. Now, when you're writing a book, as a reader, when they are reading your story, there are two things that's going to come straight to their head. The first one is this story going to be a forgettable story or a memorable story? This is the question they are going to ask themselves. So I'm going to let you all know the difference between a story that readers can easily forget after reading and a story that will live in their mind even months to come, as long as they went through that book. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm going to explain the difference between a forgettable story and a memorable story. So when you're writing, you're going to understand and know how you're going to draft your book and write your characters in a way that this story is going to be a book that your readers will not forget. So the first thing is that a memorable story, you can write this down if you want to write. A memorable story is not defined by how dramatic it is, but how deeply it resonates with your reader. I'm going to explain this. When we have an idea to write, especially, okay, this is going to resonate deeply with fiction writers. As a fiction writer, when you have an idea of a story you want to write, you get this excitement that, oh, I have a new idea I'm going to write about, a new story I want to write about. But if your idea or your plot, let me use the word plot, if your plot is amazing, your plot is good, is outstanding, but your characters lack that emotion, your book is not going to go far. Like your book is going to fall under the section of forgettable stories. Let me give you the difference. You can write this down. The differences between a forgettable story and a memorable story. Now, under forgettable story focuses only on what happens. Like I said, your plot. When you're writing a story, do not focus more on, okay, the beginning of the book, the conflicts, the matter arising, and your resolution. Don't focus on that alone. If you focus on that alone, your book becomes a forgettable story. And another point of what makes your book a forgettable story is when you move characters through events or through situations without emotional consequences. Like, for instance, when you just write a book and you don't let your characters have that emotion. Like when your readers are reading that book, okay, they know that, okay, for instance, your character is going through a tough time. But if you don't let that reader feel the emotion of these characters as you're writing them, your book is going to fall under the category of a forgettable story by the end of the day. And another point, you can write this down too. Another point that makes your book a forgettable story is when your book relies on cliche without personal meaning. It's also the same thing I just explained about when you focus more on your plots without emotions. Now let's go to a memorable story. What makes your book a memorable story? Number one, a memorable story makes readers feel seen. It reflects real emotional struggles of your characters. It allows characters to hurt, to fear, love, and change. And it stays with readers long after they are done with the book. So I'm going to say it. When you write a story that makes your readers feel your character's emotions, they just don't read a book like, oh, I just want to know what this book is all about. Let me just read it. When they read it and they feel that, okay, this is what these characters are feeling. Or, for instance, you're writing a book and I'm a reader. I say, okay, I want to read your book. And I'm reading your book and I'm seeing that I am not seeing myself as the character in that book. I'm not going to enjoy the book. Even if I finish that book, I am not going to enjoy it. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So you must write a book that your characters will, for instance, they will be the one to be living. Yes, let me use the word. They'll be the one living in that book instead of your characters. Your readers will be the one to take over the characters. I don't know if this makes any sense. You're writing a book, let that reader envision themselves as the character. You understand? Let them know that, okay, as this character is going through this phase, or maybe for instance, if it's a sad book, maybe she's going through a phase of trauma. Let that reader feel what the character feels. Don't just write as if you just want to finish your book and be done with it. Let your characters, let your readers, sorry, resonate deeply with your character's emotion. So now I'm going to go to another section. You can write this down. Why emotions are not the plot of your book stays with readers. I'll come again. Why emotions are not the plot of your book stays with readers. So I'm going to give the reason why this happens. Before we go deeper into it, we should know that a plot is the skeleton of a story, why emotion is the heartbeat. We all know the importance of the heart in a human's body. So we, as writers, we should see our plots as just the skeleton of the book. Why the emotion should be the heartbeat. Without a heart, human body will not be able to function. That is the same thing that applies with our books. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So without emotion, your book becomes lifeless. Your book becomes lifeless. And emotions gives meaning to conflict. When your characters are going through a stage of conflict, emotions help the readers to feel that conflict. It makes emotions makes choices, it makes sacrifices, it makes love, and it makes loss. So now understanding the emotional spine of a story, you can write this down. What is the emotional spine? When we talk about emotional spine of a story, what does emotional spine means? The emotional spine, I'll be reading this directly from my notes, so you can also write this down. The emotional spine is the central emotional truth your story revolves around. I will come again. The emotional spine of a story is the central emotional truth your story revolves around. For example, what is this story really about on a human level? That is the question we should ask ourselves because I am also learning too. And this is a question that we should ask ourselves as writers whenever we want to start a new book. But we have to think and be like, what is this story really about on a human level? What do we want our readers to feel after reading this book? How do we want them to, fall in love with our characters, not just the book or the storyline of the book? Let them fall in love with the characters, either your female lead, your male lead, or your characters, your other, little characters. Not just in fiction alone, even in non-fiction. Like you're writing article, maybe you're writing about a place, or you're writing about an event that happened. Definitely, those events will have characters in them or people that had to live in those events. So what is the emotional spine of this your write-up to readers? So number one, for example, Should readers feel the fear of abandonment? That's, for example, if your character's fear is being abandoned, should readers feel that? Or is your character about their desire to be chosen? Do your character want to be chosen deeply? Or are they struggling for identity? Are your characters struggling to know their identity? Or do they need forgiveness or hunger for freedom? This should be the question we should ask ourselves before we start a book. So that when we are writing that book, it will come deeply with the emotional spine. I don't know if if you understand what I just said. So I'm going to talk about the difference between idea and emotional core. You can write this down. An idea or an emotional core. An idea is what happens. An idea is your plot. An idea is your story idea. Let me use that. An idea is, oh my goodness, I have a book I want to write. This is how I want the book to be like. That alone is an idea. That is not an emotional spine of your book. That is just what comes to your head when you have a new book you want to write. So, what is the emotional core? Emotional core is, why am I writing this book? Do I want it to hurt readers, or do I want it to heal readers? That is the emotional spine of a book. For example, let me give this example. For example, you have an idea. The idea you have is a woman who was forced into a marriage that she does not want. That is an idea of a book. You can tell yourself, oh, I want to write a book about a woman that was forced into a marriage. That's just the idea. But what should not be the emotional core? The emotional core should be, is this woman or the lady or the protagonist of this story, let readers feel that, oh, she is afraid that she will never be loved for who she truly is. That should be the emotional core. So as she's going into that marriage, into that first marriage, that is alone is just the idea. But the thought that should come to readers' mind when they are reading your book is, oh, this protagonist, her fear is
No, I
she's
go
not being
color.
loved. Sorry, please turn off your speaker, please. Thank you very much. Turn off your speaker, please. As I was saying, the emotional core should be, when your readers are reading this book, this is just an example though. The idea is of a woman being forced into a wrong marriage. Then emotional core should be a woman afraid that she will not be loved for who she truly is. That is when your book has life. I don't know if anyone understand what I just said. That is when your book has life. Now we're going to go into the third phase of today's class, which is character has the heart of emotion. Please write. Character has the heart of emotion. I'm going to read from my notes so you can draft it down if you want to. Every character wants something, but surface wants are not enough. Every character wants something, but on the surface wants are not enough. There are two levels of desire. Please write this down. When writing a book, there are two levels of desire. The first is the external wants. That is what the characters think that they want. This is the external wants. While the second level of desire is the internal wants, internal, which is what the character truly need emotionally. I'll come back again. We have two types of desires, external and internal. External is what the characters, what they think that they want. And the internal is what they truly need emotionally. For example, a character external wants can be they want to be rich, they want to get rich. That can be your character external wants. But their internal need should be to feel worthy or respected. Because we all know that as long as you're rich or you have money, you will definitely get it. Like you'll definitely be respected. Let me use that word. So this should be the internal want. This is just an example. This should be the internal want of your character when writing a story or a book or a nonfiction, any of that. So now we are going to talk about emotional wounds. It's still a topic under this section. Please write this down. We are going to talk about emotional wounds. I'm going to read this directly from my notes. So please, you can write it down. An emotional wound is a past experience that shaped how your character sees the world. Um, can I come again? If you want me to come again, please just, wave your hand. I can come again. And please, everyone, turn off your speaker, please. Please turn off your speaker. An emotional wound is a past experience that shaped how your character sees the world. The world. For example, their wound can be about their fears or what drives their decision and what creates internal conflict within them. I'm going to explain this, so just hold on. Let me just, read it out to you guys and you can write it. Common emotional wounds include rejection, betrayal, abandonment, loss, shame, and powerlessness. The character's wound is not a weakness, it is just the flaw of a story. So I'm going to explain what this means. When we talk about emotional wounds, this talks about your characters, what they fear most in that story. It can be their fear of abandonment. It can be rejection. Maybe we that write werewolf novels, the rejection theme of your mates, you being rejected by your mates. I'm just using that as an example. We also know the betrayal, like betrayal, for instance, maybe you're writing a CEO story and the spouse as a main lead, the antagonist male lead betrays you get what I'm trying to say. It's just an example. Or it can be of loss, it can be shame, it can be powerlessness, sorry. So your emotional wound is what fuels your story. If your story lacks emotions, if your characters don't have emotional wounds that they have to treat, your story will be definitely lifeless. I'm going to come again. Emotional wounds. Emotional wounds are the situations or the conflict or the pain your characters goes through emotionally. And if you don't put in those emotions or these emotional wounds in your story, your characters are going to be lifeless. You're just writing. And I'm going to say something very quickly. You guys know currently now a lot of writers are making use of AI to write. Let me tell you the reason why if you use AI to write, most of the time editors know that you use AI to write. The reason is because AI writer, there is no emotion in it. It lacks emotion. As a writer myself, whenever someone, sends me a book and be like, oh, Victoria, I need you to go through this for me. I know when they make use of AI to write, it's not just all about the dash symbol there. If you make use of AI, I am going to know. And how will I know about it? How am I going to find out that you use AI to write? Is because AI do not deal with emotions when writing. They just write. You can type in on ChatGPT, oh, I need you to create a short story for me, give it a prompt. Definitely it's going to write that for you. But when you go through that story written by AI, maybe ChatGPT or any AI tools, you will find out that there is no emotion. That's the majority of I'm not saying everyone does this, but I'm just trying to use as an example. That's why if you make use of AI to write, editors will definitely know. They are smart. They've been into that business, or let's say they've been into this line of writing for years. So when they come across a book that lacks emotion, they know that this book is not written by humans because we humans, we deal with emotions. So definitely your characters too must have emotions. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Because if you understand, just wave your hands. And if you don't, I can come again. Thank you very much. As a writer, you need to put in emotions in your characters. For instance, if your character is angry, you just don't write, oh, maybe for instance, the male lead name is Alex. You can't just write Alex is angry or Alex is this. How do you want your readers to know that Alex is really angry? You start with, oh, maybe his jaw tightens, he clenches his fists. You know, you start with body movements. Body movements is another point that makes your book have emotion. You need to make use of your characters' body movements. Maybe their hearts racing, maybe their fingers trembling. Those are what build the emotions of the characters. So, the AI stuff is not part of our work today, but it's just an example. I'm trying to let you guys know that if you make use of AI to write, editors will definitely know because AI do not write with emotions. AI writings is just plain. They will just crumble down someone. There's no authenticity in when it comes to writing with AI. So you're just going to waste your time. And even if you're not going through an editor, maybe you're a self-publisher and you just publish your book with AI, written by AI, it's not going to sell. You're just going to waste your money printing a book. It's not going to sell. So if you want to write a book that is perfect, you need your characters to have emotions. So before I go further, if you understand this part, please just wave your hands. I don't want to, go further without making sure everyone understand what I'm trying to talk about. Please just wave your hands. Yeah, thank you very much. So now, please, I'm going to read this from my notes so you can jot this down also. Why characters resist change? It's a subheading. Why characters resist change? Should I come again? Why characters resist change? Now I'm going to start reading. You can also write this down. Most characters do not change easily. Like when you're writing your book, these characters don't change easily. For these examples, I'm going to write down some examples. Like I'm going to say some examples, sorry. The first example is because the change threatens their identity. The change threatens their identity. You can write this down. The second is that healing requires vulnerability. Most characters, they don't want to be vulnerable. Why, when I say most characters, you can ask yourself that, oh, I am the writer writing this book, so why is she saying characters? Your characters own you. As a writer, your character is your boss. Let me use that word. Your characters, are your boss. Let me say that, for instance. You're just someone that is helping them write their story. But they are the one, they are the owner of that story. So they are the one, guiding you on what to write. I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say. When you're writing a story, you should have this mindset that I am just a writer. I'm just someone delivering a message. Let me use that example. I'm just delivering a message. Why the character that I'm writing about, they are the owner of this story. They own me. They own me as a writer. And you have to give them life. You have to give them life. So most of the time, when you're writing, maybe we develop a writer's block because as a writer, we all, face something like that most of the time. When you develop writer block, you get to find out that sometimes the characters themselves struggle with emotional change. So I'm going to go further and talk about why your story must exist. You can write this down. Why your story must exist. I'm trying to, um, talk as fast as I can because of the time. We started late, so I'm trying to, talk about it as quickly as possible. But at the same time, I want you all to understand me So in case you have any question, please, as I'm teaching, if you have any question, write it down. There's going to be a Q&A session where you're going to ask your questions. And I'm going to try my best as possible to, give you the right answer to these questions. So now, please write why your story exists. Every story has a purpose beyond entertainment. As a writer, we entertain people, we entertain readers, but our own entertainment has to do with writing. We are not like actors or actresses that they perform on stage, they write and they read lines and you see them on your screen. We also entertain. We are also entertainers as writers. So your story must have a purpose outside entertainment. You must not just write a story just because you want to entertain readers, but there should be a reason why you're writing this book. As a writer, you need to ask yourself, you can write this down. What emotional truths am I exploring? That's the first question you need to ask yourself as a writer. What emotional truths am I exploring? The second question is, what question does this story ask? When your reader reads your book, what is the question that stays in their mind that the story definitely will ask them as a reader? The third question is, what experience am I offering to my readers? These are the three questions you need to ask yourself when you're doing your narrative purpose as a writer. Like I said, your story has a purpose beyond entertainment. You are not an entertainer. You are not writing your book to just entertain people. Let them just read and throw the book away. Oh, I'm done with the book. You are writing a story for your story to have a purpose. And that purpose is for this story to stay in their head, even if years should pass. Maybe, for instance, someone can ask them, oh, what book have you read that you really like? And they'll be like, oh, written by this author. This story, even with time passing, they will still recommend your book to other readers. This is the key as a writer when you are writing a book. I don't know if you understand mine. See, if you understand, please wave your hand, please. I want to be sure. Please wave your hands. So now I'm going to give a practical reflection exercise. Please write this down. You're not going to send the answers to me, but you're going to answer the questions by yourself and to yourself. So this is a practical reflection exercise for everybody. So please everybody should please write this down. Participants, that's you guys, should take a few minutes to reflect and write. Number one, what is my story idea in one sentence? So this practical reflection exercise, you have to do it after this class. You're not doing it to me. You're doing it to yourself. But just write down these questions because this will help you to resonate deeply with today's class. The first question is, what is my story idea in one sentence? The second question is, what emotional struggle lies beneath it? I'll come again. What emotional struggle lies beneath it? Can I go on? If I can go on, please identify by waving your hands.
Please, can you start from the first question?
Okay. The first question is, what is my story idea in one sentence? That's the first question. What is my story idea in one sentence? Can I go on? The second question is,
Yes, thank you.
okay, you're welcome. The second question is, what emotional struggle lies beneath it? The third question is, what is my protagonist afraid of? What is my protagonist afraid of? That is the third question you should ask yourself after today's class. The fourth question is, what do they want more than anything? What do my characters want more than anything? That is the fourth question. Why the last question is, what wound are my characters trying to protect? This is the last question. What wound are my characters trying to protect? So these five questions at the end of today, you should ask yourself these questions and try to answer them yourself. So now we are going to go on a 2 minutes break. Just 2 minutes, please. Just 2 minutes. You can, go take a bottle of water, go take a glass of water, stretch your legs, anything you want to do. So in the next 2 minutes, we will be back. So 2 minutes break, please. You can turn off your video if you want to. Thank you. Just 2 minutes, please. Are we all ready?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Can I go on now? Can I continue to the next phase? Because if you're ready, please just wave your hand. I'm trying to meet up with time so that we don't stay too long. Can I go on? Okay. So now we are moving to the next phase. So sorry. We are moving to the next phase, which is idea versus impacts. And this is the main topic of this workshop. So this is the second phase for today's class. Idea versus impacts. Please write it down. Idea versus impacts. I'll be reading this from my notebook, so please, I'm going to come back and explain, but you can write it down if you want to. In this section, participants will learn why having a good idea is not enough to create a powerful story. We will explore the difference between concept and story, events and emotional meaning, and uncover why many promising ideas fail to connect with readers. By the end of this section, Participants should be able to identify the core question their story is truly answering. This is just the purpose of this section. You don't need to write this, just listen, please. This is the purpose of this section. Now, please write this. I need you all to write this, please. Please turn on your video. You can turn on your video now, please, but turn off your speaker, please. Please turn on your video, everyone. This is the main part of this workshop, so I need everyone's attention. As you can see that this is idea versus impact, which is the name of this workshop. So this is very important. So I need everyone's attention, please. And if you want me to come again, just identify by waving your hands because I'll be reading from my notebook right now. So I need you all to jot this down. So first, I'm going to talk about differences between concepts and a story. So you can just write concept versus story. Are we together? You can just write concepts versus story. What is concept? I'm going to explain what a concept is. So please, you can write this down. What is a concept? A concept is the starting point of a story. I'll come again, sorry. A concept is the starting point of a story. It is often short, exciting, and easy to summarize. Examples of a concept. The first example is a girl who discovers that she has supernatural powers. That is a concept. A girl who discovers she has supernatural powers. That is a concept. The second concept is two enemies who are forced into marriage. I know we all are familiar with this kind of book, especially people that write billionaire romance novels. Two enemies who are forced into marriage. This is also an example. Can I go on? Can I go on with the third example? If you want me to go on, just wave your hand. Thank you. The third example is a man who wakes up in a world where no one remembers him. A man who wakes up in a world where no one remembers him. Why the last example of a concept is a kingdom falls and a new ruler rises. A kingdom falls and a new ruler rises. Now I'm going to read from my notebook. Concepts are important, but they are only the seed and not the tree. I'll come again. Concepts are important. When you're writing a book, having a concept is very important because that is what drives your story. That is what brings in the idea and makes you write down the plot of your story. That is concept. Concept is just like the seed of a story. Not even just like, it is the seed of a story, but it is not the tree. You know, when you have a seed, you need to plant the seed, and when the seed germinates and it grows, it becomes a tree. So you need to see concepts as just the seed of your story and not the tree. So let's move on. A concept tells us what happens, but not why it matters. I'll come again. A concept tells us as writers what happens, but not why it matters. Like I said, a concept is just what builds the idea of your story. Before you write a story, or before an idea comes to you, You can just sit down. Maybe you're in your room or you are in a bus or anywhere. A concept cannot come to your mind and you'll be like, oh, why don't I write something like this? That is just the seed of that story. You've not written it yet. You've not drafted out your characters. You've not, draft out your outline yet, but you already have a seed that once you plant it, it grows into a tree. So in this second phase of today's class, we're talking about what concept versus story. So now I've said what a concept is. So now we are going to talk about what is a story. Please write this down. Sorry, please, can you all hear me? Please, everyone, can you all hear me, please? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we are going to talk about what is a story. Please write this down. A story is what happens inside the characters as events unfolds. I'll come again. A story is what happens inside the characters as events unfolds. A true story explores emotional change, internal conflicts, belief versus reality, and pain, desire, fear, and hope. I'm going to come again. A true story explores emotional change, internal conflicts, belief versus reality, pain, desire, fear, and hope. So I'm going to just quickly read this through, then I'm going to explain. Using the same concepts, like the concept examples I gave earlier, a girl discovers she has supernatural powers and must decide whether she is a monster or a savior. This is when it becomes a story. If you can go through the notes or what I said when I said the example of a concept, I said the first example of a concept is a girl discovers she has supernatural powers. That is just a concept. So now a story is a girl discovers she has supernatural powers and must decide whether she is a monster or a savior. This is when it becomes a story. Now your book will leave the concept part of the concept phase into a story phase. The second example I gave when I was giving types of a concept is two enemies who are forced into marriage. So when it becomes a story, it changes into two enemies in a forced marriage confront their fear of vulnerability and trust. I'll come again. Two enemies in a forced marriage confront their fear of vulnerability and trust. That is when it becomes a story. The third example of a concept I wrote is a man wakes up in a world where no one remembers him. That's the concept. Then when it becomes a story is a forgotten man faces the terror of being unseen and the question of self-worth. This is when it becomes a story. So this is the difference between concept and a story. So now write this down. Key distinction. Key distinction between concept and story. Key distinction between concepts and story. What is the key distinction? Concept talks about what happens. Please write this down. Concept talks about what happens. Why story is what it costs emotionally. That is, story talks about emotions. Concept talks about what happens. Why story talks about emotions. I'm sorry, please hold on. I am getting a message that some people are having problems logging in. Please hold on. Some people are having problems logging in. We've gone far already in this class, in today's class, but if you want to join, you can still join. Sorry. Please, if you know anyone who has problem logging in, please send them the link. There is a link I sent to everyone's email. Please just forward the link to them because I'm getting messages right now that some people are having issues logging in. Sorry, please, I need to set this down. Okay. Please, if you know anyone having issues joining, please send them the link so that we can move on with today's class. I want to, round it up as quick as I can. Can I go on? Please, can I go on? If I can go on, please just Vivian. Okay, moving on to, yeah. Please just wave your hand, please. Like I said before, if you have a question as I'm teaching, please write it down. There will be a Q&A session where everyone with a question will ask, and I'll be able to answer as fast as I can because we don't have time on our side anymore. This is currently 2 p.m. So now we are going to talk about events versus emotional meaning. Please write this down. Events versus emotional meaning. What are events? Events are the visible actions in a story. I'm going to be reading this directly. So you're just going to write it down and I'm going to come back and explain. What is events? What are events? Sorry. Events are the visible actions in a story, which includes betrayal, death, confession, war, a breakup. Sorry, sorry, everyone. Can you hear me, please? Please, if you can hear me, just raise your hand, please, please. Sorry, it's a glitch. It's a glitch. Sorry, it's a glitch. Can you all hear me now? Can you see me now? Okay. So sorry. I'm so sorry about that. I'm so sorry about that. It's a glitch. So like I was saying, what are events? Events are the visible actions in a story. We have betrayal, we have death, we have a confession, we have war, breakup, and victory. Events move the plot of a story further, but by themselves, they are neutral. I'll come again. Events moves the plot of a story further, they moves it further, but by themselves, they are neutral. Now let me go to emotion. So I'm going to explain the two of them together because we don't have much time on our side. What is emotion? What is emotional meaning? Yeah. Emotional meaning is the internal reaction to events. I'll come again. Emotional meaning is the internal reaction to events. So we have events and we have emotional meaning. Events on its own can be about betrayal, like I said, can be about maybe death of a character, can be about a confession, a breakup, victory, you understand? So what is now emotional meaning? Emotional meaning is the internal reaction to these events, like the internal reaction to these events. These events that I have listed down already, what are the internal reactions of these events? That is when emotional meaning comes in. I'm going to keep reading and I'm going to explain as I read. Examples of emotional meaning is, how does this event changes the character? This is the first example. How does this event changes the character? The second is, what belief is reinforced or shattered, sorry. What belief is reinforced or shattered? The third question is, sorry, do you want me to come again? If you want me to come again, please just wave your hand. I don't want to read this without carrying everyone along, please. Can I go on? Okay, okay. As I was saying, the first question is, how does this event changes the character? The second is, what belief is reinforced or shattered? The third question is, what fear is awakened? Why the fourth is, what desires becomes stronger? What desires become stronger? For example, example of an event is a character gets betrayed. That is an example. Then the emotional meaning of this event is the betrayal confirms their belief that trusting others leads to pain. For example, now we have a concept. Sorry, we have an event that happened. In the event of the book is one of maybe a protagonist, maybe the female lead gets betrayed. So what is now what does that betrayal causes the female lead? It makes her feel that she cannot trust anyone anymore. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. She will have this feeling of, I can't trust anybody anymore. This is the emotional meaning of that event, of that betrayal that happened to her. I don't know if you understand what I just explained. This is when we talk about events and emotional meaning. What is the emotional meaning of an event? Every characters that passes through an event always have an emotional meaning. So the emotional meaning of this character is she was betrayed, and because of that betrayal, she doesn't trust anyone again because she feels that if she should try to trust people, she will end up in the same pain. So that is the emotional meaning of this particular event. So we'll soon get to the Q&A section. Now, the next part is why events alone are not enough. I'm going to read this through so we can quickly go to the Q&A section. Why events alone are not enough. Many stories fail because they lack events. Sorry, I'm coming again, sorry. Many stories fail because they stack events without exploring impacts. Many stories fail because they stack events without exploring impacts. You cannot just write a book and you just keep on writing plot twist upon plot twist, or plot twist is the same thing with events. Plot twist upon plot twist without that plot twist having an impact in your characters. I'm going to go on so you can understand better. For example, something happens or your characters react briefly or the story moves on. But readers want to sit in the moment. Your readers, they want to feel the confusion, the rage, the grief, and the longing that follows these events. Your readers just don't want to read your book. As they are reading this, your book, they want to feel the grief, the confusion, the longing, and the rage. That's the anger, the fury in these events. For example, now, okay, like this female character that got betrayed. As the event happened, the event is what? Her being betrayed or her getting betrayed. That is already an event of the book. The emotional impact is she feeling that she cannot trust any other person anymore because if she should trust people, she's going to get betrayed. So readers, when reading that's your book, they need to feel everything this female lead is going through because of the betrayal that happened to her. How maybe if she wants to get in revenge, how maybe if she wants to, get back or, build herself to become a very great person or, build a character. Let your readers feel the steps because every story will definitely come to an end. That is one thing about being a writer. We need to have this mindset that this story I'm writing is definitely going to come to an end. So you need to write this book in a way that when your readers read it, they will feel everything this event cost your character. Please, if you understand what I just explained, you just, signify, please. I want to go to the next part so we can quickly go to the Q&A section. If you understand what I just, explained, to just wave your hand, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, and this is the last part of today's topic. Why many stories fail despite good ideas. This is the last part of today's class, so please write this down. Why many stories fail despite good ideas. Now I'm going to give you all some common reasons why stories fails or maybe they become boring or flat for readers to go on. The first example is the idea is strong. Yes, you can have a strong idea. You can have a wonderful idea on what you want your book to be about, but your characters are weak. That is, number one is the idea is strong, but the characters are weak. This is one reason why stories that have good ideas fail. That is number one. If readers don't care about your characters, they won't care about what happens. That is just the bitter truth. If your readers don't care about your characters or the emotions your characters are passing through, they will drop your book. They'll drop it. They won't finish it up because your characters, they are weak, they are boring, they are flat. This is just the bitter truth. Your characters, there is no emotion, they don't have emotions, there are no events driving their impact. The idea is there, but there's no impact. Readers will definitely not continue that book. So this is number one reason why many books that have good ideas fail. The second reason is too much happens too fast. Like, for example, you read a book where events upon event just keeps coming immediately. You get what I'm trying to say? Something happens, before you know it, another thing happens, another thing happens. Your readers will not be able to sit down, freeze in and out, and understand a particular event one after the other. So when you rush your story, when you rush it, it becomes lifeless, it becomes flat. So your readers will not even have the urge to, or maybe the feeling to continue with your book. This is another reason why good books or good ideas fail. The third reason is conflict exists without consequences. I'll come again. Conflict exists without consequences. Characters faces problems but are not changed by them. For example, you're writing a book. For example, the event example I gave, your female lead got betrayed. If that betrayal don't change her character or don't change the way she was before she got betrayed, your book will be flat. Readers won't go on with your book. They want to see the reason, like they want to see a change in your character that they've gone through that phase. of life, or maybe that phase of betrayal. Or maybe, for instance, a character loses a best friend, maybe to death or sickness or anything. I'm say loses a best friend to death, or maybe a family member. That pain of losing someone that they love will definitely change them. So if your book does not have these changes, the new changes that the characters will begin to exhibit, your book will definitely be flat, no matter how wonderful your idea is. So that is the third example. The fourth example of why good stories fail is because there is no emotional progression. There is no emotional progression. The characters end story emotionally the same way they begin. Maybe, for instance, now at the beginning of the book, maybe the characters are happy, and the emotion at the start of the book continues to the ending of the book. Your characters will definitely not continue that book because they want to see change of emotions in your characters, because we are all human beings. No one can be happy all through. Don't say, "Oh, I don't want to write a book that falls under tragedy." It's good to write it because we are human beings. We go through pain. We go through events of life. So if your characters don't see certain changes in your character, like, sorry, if your readers, sorry, don't see certain changes in your characters, they will definitely drop the book. They will be like, "Oh, this book is just a waste of my time." They will definitely drop it. And because the book will be lifeless and it will be flat. So now this is the last example why good stories fail. The story doesn't ask a deeper question. Without a question, the story has no direction. I'll come again. The story doesn't ask a deeper question. Without a question, the story has no direction. Now I'm going to explain this last part of today's class. What do they mean by a story having a deeper question? For example, you're done reading a book, and when you're done reading a book, you ask yourself, why did I read this book? What does this book want me to go home with? And if there is no answer, that book was just a waste of time. That is what this means. You should write a book that once your readers are done reading that book, they will ask themselves a question and be like, "Oh, this book really made me feel this way. This book really taught me this. This book really opened my eyes to this part of life that I don't have any idea about." I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So whenever you're done with a certain book, let the book ask your readers questions. Let it, if they, when they are done with the book and there's no question for them to think about, I'm sorry, the book is just there. You might get readers that will finish up the book, but the book is just there. So why are you writing a book that will not get impact on your readers? It's of no use. So this is the reasons why good books fail. So we are done with today's class. We are done with today's explanation. I'm so sorry we went ahead of time because of the whole, waiting for people to join before we started. And currently now this is the Q&A section. So how we're going to do it, like, if you have a question to ask, just identify yourself. Then I'm going to call your name. And when I call your name, please turn on your speaker and ask. And when you ask a question, others that are listening to this question, if you feel you also have the answer to this question, you can also identify, or you type in the chat box, "Oh, I feel I have an answer to this too. I want this to be an interactive section too, along with the others we're going to talk about." So if you have a question, please signify, please. I want to, we are going to end this class very soon. So, okay. If you have a question, I'm only seeing Praise Abraham. Is there any other person apart from her? Please feel free. If you have a question, feel free to ask. this is a class and we are all learning. So if you have any question, if you feel there's something about today's class that you want to, ask, please ask. Okay, Praise, you can go ahead with your question, please.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Ma.
Good
And
afternoon.
thank you so much for the very insightful class. Like my notes is entirely filled up, and I've been following from the start. Thank you so much. Okay, so
Thank you.
my question is concerning how to balance the events in your story with the emotional aspect of the story.
Okay.
Um, my question basically that I have noticed that a book that is more event based tends to be fast paced. Like
Sorry, can you come
for
again?
example, maybe thriller.
Okay.
Okay, what I said, I noticed like I read a lot and I noticed that
Okay.
events in stories tend to hasten the pace of a story. Like if
Okay.
you read a book that is filled with so many events, you know,
Yes.
back to back to back, like in film, it tends to make the story faster. And some
Yeah,
readers like that.
I
You
understand.
understand?
Yeah, I know.
So whereas yeah, emotions tend to drag the story. If I'm reading a story and like a bigger chunk of the story is telling me what the character is thinking or feeling, it tends to drag the story in a way. So my question is, how can we intuitively balance or blend both the events and the emotions in a story such that one is not weighing the other down, like everything is just balanced and flowing well? Like, what are the practical ways we can actually balance events with emotions in the story? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay. I want to, be sure of your question. You mean how characters or how events can be balanced in a story? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, with the emotion. For example, what I mean is, okay, so if I'm saying this is happening, maybe this girl was betrayed, and in the
Okay.
character she's feeling certain emotions. I want to convey that. So you are now telling us, you're now like maybe telling us what she's thinking or how she's feeling with it. So how do we balance both the events and the emotion without, without it like feeling like, oh, one is dragging the other? I don't know how to properly
Okay.
convey that, but that's what I'm just like.
Okay. Before I answer that, I also want to blend our interactive section because the interactive section is the last part of today's section. So anybody that has the answer to a question should please signify. If you know you can answer a question, I don't know, did we all hear what she said? Did you all listen to a question? If you know you can answer a question, please just identify. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to answer. At least give an idea or something or what you understand. Anyone? Okay. To avoid wasting any more of our time, how to blend events and characters and emotions. Okay, let me say events, like I said, is um what happens, like the plot of your book. Emotions are the core, like how the feelings, let me use the word, the feelings of your characters. And when you're writing a book and you have so much event, so much event, so much event, so much event. It's good because a lot of readers, I've met a lot of readers that love fast-paced books. Like they don't like those books that will drag and drag. I get what I'm trying to say. There are lots of readers who they just want to read the book and be done with it. Even if the book is interesting and they resonate deeply with the characters' emotions, they just want to be done with it. You understand? So how we can balance that together is do not make your events be more than the emotional crisis. Every book has its crisis. Every book has its conflicts. Like, for example, as a writer, whenever I want to start a new book, I'm giving the way I write my own books. When I want to start a new book, I first create my outline. That is the full idea plus my events. But emotions will not be in this outline because it's just an idea and my events. I'm going to create it down. I'm going to write them down. And when I write them down, I'll make sure that these events will flow in a very right way with my emotions, my character emotions. Let's, for instance, now my character gets betrayed. Maybe after betrayal, I'll not be like, oh, I want her to get revenge on the person that betrayed her. Okay, she starts to grow herself. Maybe she becomes a billionaire or she becomes a millionaire. Get that kind of trying and what I'm trying to say. Her becoming a millionaire is an event on its own. Her growing herself is an event on its own. Or maybe her finding out that she's an heiress. Or maybe she has a family member that has money. Or maybe her grandmother, she inherited her grandmother's wealth. Those are events. So I'll make sure that as I'm writing those events are coming in place. My emotions, when I'm now writing, because when you want to write an event of your book, you have to draft them down first because you just don't want to just write and write outside the plot. Before you start a book, that's one thing I want everybody to know. As a writer, before you start a new book, draft your outline. Draft your outline. Your outline will help you to stay focused on your book. So you won't go out of plot or you will not go out of line. When you are able to draft an outline, your book will go according to the way you want it to go. Because if you don't draft an outline, it's as this idea comes in, you write. As this idea comes in, you write. Even if they make sense or they don't make sense, as long as they're coming in, you write. But when you already have an outline before you start writing your book, when you have a writer's block, that's another important thing or reason why most editors will tell you submit your outline. They're not stupid. They know what they are doing. They don't, apart from them trying to know what your book is all about, they want to also help you. So in case when they accept those books, they say, okay, we want to publish these books or we want to sign these books. When you are writing the book and you have writer's block, or maybe you a time maybe an idea does not really stick well with you, you can go back to that outline you've written. You go back to the outline you've written and be like, okay. It will not give you more ideas on what to write about. So when you are writing your events, you're writing your emotions, you're writing your characters, everything will be balanced. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Everything will be balanced. So the best way to balance your events, your emotions, and your characters is firstly drafting your outline and making sure that your event your event is not more than the emotional impact. In fact, let your emotional impact be more than your events. That is when your story will be very superb. Like, let your emotional impact, even if you don't have a lot of events to write, like, oh, maybe, for instance, now she gets betrayed, she gets rich, she began a revenge plan, she got her revenge. You know, those are events of your book. These things I just said now, they are events of the books. But let your emotion, let's find starting with the betrayal, write our pain, our tears, our cries. Be dramatic. Like, let your characters have life. Just don't write she's sad or she's angry, her husband betrayed her husband divorced her, or her mother betrayed her sister slept with her husband. Those kind of, don't just write like that. You can write, oh, maybe she pounded her fist on the wall. There's some women that when they're angry, they hit their hands on the wall. It's not just men alone. They're not just men that does that. Or maybe you can write something, or maybe she takes a vase of flour, she throws them on the ground and they smash into pieces. Those are examples of you putting in emotion in your characters. But so when your readers are reading, they can feel the pain of that betrayal that your character went through. So when they feel the betrayal, and when it's time for her to start her revenge, they also feel everything she had to go through for her to get to where she is right now. And when she's in the process of getting her revenge, let them feel the excitement and the pain that makes her want to get that revenge. And towards the ending of the book, when she finally gets her revenge, let your readers feel a victory. Let them feel what she's feeling. Like when your readers are reading your book, let it look to them like they are the one in the book. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. Let your readers, as they're reading that book, they'll be like, oh, the way, like, how would I put it? Their imaginations will be so wide that they will feel like they are the characters themselves. You get what I'm trying? I don't know if anyone else what I'm trying to say. Let them feel that they are the characters themselves. Let them not just read the book as, oh, it's another person's story. Let them read it as, this is my story. That is like, that should be the goal of every writer whenever you're writing a book. And this will make everything to be balanced. So I hope this answers your question. Does it? If you're satisfied with this answer, please let me know. Chris. Does anyone have any other question? Any other question?
Yes, ma, thank you so much. I'm so sorry, my phone was hanging. Thank you so much. You really answered the
Okay.
question.
Okay.
No.
I'm glad to hear
Okay,
that.
I
Sorry,
have
is it?
one more question. I hope you don't. I have one more question.
Okay. Okay, quickly ask. Another person has a question to ask. So you can ask yours.
Oh, all right, ma. So my second question, my final question is that when we are writing emotions, so I've heard certain things like, oh, we should write a writer should write more of what he or she has experienced because that way to be able to translate better to the
Sorry, please,
readers.
can you come again? Sorry,
So
can you come
in
again?
a case, all right, ma. I said
Sorry.
that I've come across. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Come, go on.
Okay, I said I have come across an advice that says that the writer should write no, more of what he or she has experienced because in that way it will be able to
Mm-hmm.
translate better to the readers. You
Okay.
understand? So my question now is that in a case where your character in that story has to go
Mm-hmm.
through an emotion that you have never experienced,
Mm-hmm.
let's say for example, I'm writing a story and maybe my female character is experiencing heartbreak and maybe I have never experienced heartbreak before. Or maybe one of my characters is experiencing the loss of a parent or grief or something that in that line. And I've never lost someone that is very close to me before. What advice can you give in that instance so that you won't the writer won't write something that is emotionally detached and the person does not realize it. So I think that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, you mean that, for example, if a character goes through a phase of pain, maybe pain of losing someone they love, how can it resonate with you as a reader or or the writer in him or herself? Is that what you mean? Hello? Is that what you mean?
Yes, ma, that's what I mean. In
As
essence,
a
like I've never experienced it. I've never experienced something in real life. As I'm a writer and I've never experienced something like a particular emotion in real life. Now,
okay.
how do I communicate that when I'm writing, like maybe in the shoes of my character, so that the reader will not, like when the reader is reading
Okay.
it,
I
it will not
understand.
look
I understand. I understand
like
what you're saying.
very,
Yes. Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Well, that's a very good question. That's a very good question because as a writer, you need to write what you've gone through before. That is why they say you're not just a writer, you are also a reader. As a writer, just don't be a writer alone. A writer is a reader. The more you write, you also read the same way you write. Don't just write because you want to write a story. Even if you're good or you're very good with emotions, as a writer, you need to also be a reader because you cannot be a good writer if you're not a reader. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So when it comes to that part of writing something that you've not gone through, you read, you watch a movie, you make research. You can go over to, you can meet someone that you know that have gone through something like that and walk up to the person and say, oh, I'm so sorry. Try to bring up that. I know that topic can be a very controversial topic to people that have lost someone. But if you can approach them, they can be able to let you know that, okay, this is how it was. This was how I felt. But if you don't want to go through that length of asking them, what you watch movies. I know most of us would have watched a movie where a character dies or someone in the movie dies, you see how the other characters react to it. It will also give you an idea of how you want your book to be. You can make research. We have Google. You can Google. Okay, now we have chat GPT everywhere. You can go to ChatGPT and write, okay, not your story. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should go to ChatGPT to write your story. You can go to ChatGPT and ask a question and be like, as a writer, okay, for instance, now I'm writing a story of someone's loved one dying or getting killed. How should I write it in a way that makes my readers feel that have gone through such phase, even if I've not been through that phase before? ChatGPT would definitely give you ideas. You understand? So as a writer, if you want to write a book that you've not gone through that phase, there's no need for you to worry. Just research. Most of the books you see online, or most of the good books you see online, the writers themselves, they are inside their house, because most writers, we don't really associate with people. We're always indoors. We don't go, even if fine, we might have lost someone we love, maybe another type of event. I'm not just talking about death now, maybe another something. They read, they read other books, they watch movies, they interact with people, they go through what do you call it, Google, or they go online, they make research. As a writer, you need to make research. You need to be very, very, like, now if you open, for example, now if you open my search history, most of my books, I make research before I write them, because I need to write what is true. So even if I've not been through that phase before, this research I make, or the books I read, or the movies I watch, they help with my imagination, and they bring my imagination to life. So this is what you can do to help you tackle that situation. So I hope this answers your question.
Yes, ma. Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome. Okay, someone else have a question. The question says, actually, while writing daily, the novel episode gets stopped little and blacks out. Okay, as outlined with other, okay, or suddenly phrases while writing. Can you help me, or any suggestion you can give me? Okay, I can understand. You mean when you're writing a book and maybe you're in a particular chapter and you have writer block, even if you have an outline, but you still have writer's block. The best thing to do, okay, I'll use myself as an example. Even with my outline, I do face writer block. Nobody, as long as you're a writer, you're not above writer's block. It's something that we have to face. No matter, maybe you'll be writing for 10 years, writing for 20 years. As long as you're a writer, no matter the years you must have spent, or even if you have a bachelor degree in creative writing, you will definitely come across author block. It's a normal thing. So what I do, oh, I'm so sorry. Can you all hear me? Someone said the network is breaking. Please, if you can hear me, just identify, please. I don't want to, keep talking when you're not hearing me properly. Okay? Please, someone said the network is breaking. I just want to be sure before I continue. Okay? Like I was saying, even with an outline, it's still very much possible for you to have to have author's block. The best thing you can do is leave your book, rest. That's what I do. You don't have to kill yourself. Rest. Like, you don't have to overstress yourself. Rest for a while. Drop the book aside. You can maybe take a nap. You can maybe watch a movie. You can maybe take a stroll, visit a friend, hang out with people. I bet you, by the time you give yourself that little break and you come back, and not just coming back, you go through your outline over again and you go through the previous chapters you've written. You need to go through your previous. This is what helps me with my writer's block, and I know it's going to help you all too. Go back to the chapters, even if it's when it starts with chapter 1, and maybe you've written over 60 chapters already. Go back to chapter 1. Read after you've taken a break. Go through, I'm sorry, go back to chapter 1. Read the chapters you've written, or maybe you can just glance through them. I'll read your outline again. I bet you definitely you are going to get an idea back. You are going to get an idea back, and your writer's block is going to get like it's going to, get away from you. So I feel, and I know, not just I feel, I know this is the best way to get over writer's block as a writer. So any other question? We're already rounding up. This is to 3 already, so we need to finish up today's class. Any other question, please? Another question? So now we are in the interactive section. If you have anything to say, I can also learn from you. If you have anything to say, if you have any suggestion, if you have any, inputs you want to say, please identify. No matter how small it is, even if it's a tiny line or a tiny phrase, anything you have to let me know that you understand what I taught you guys today. Anything, please identify. Please identify. Okay. So are we all satisfied today? Please, if you enjoyed today's session, please identify by waving your hands. If you know you learned a lot in today's class, please identify by raising your hands. I want to say a very big thank you for joining me today in today's class. It was a nice interaction section we had today, and I'm so grateful for everyone who attended today. And we will finish up tomorrow. Yes, we will finish up tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to start by 1. We're not going to wait for anyone tomorrow. So immediately it's 1 o'clock tomorrow. We are starting immediately. We're not waiting for anyone. So please, tomorrow, all of you that attended today's class, if you want to get your certificate, please endeavor to attend tomorrow's class. If you don't attend tomorrow's class, there will be no certificates for you. But if you attended, let me say, for instance, sorry, if you did not attend to this class and you attend tomorrow, unfortunately, no certificates for you. So please, we will continue this our class tomorrow. And tomorrow, you can go through the workshop guide, see everything we are going to talk about tomorrow. Write down your questions, write down everything you feel. And tomorrow class might be longer because tomorrow is the final class and we're going to cover a lot. We are going to learn a lot tomorrow, like a lot tomorrow. So that's why I said we're not going to wait for anyone. As immediately it's 1 o'clock tomorrow, we are starting immediately. We are not waiting for anyone because we need to cover up tomorrow. So everyone, thank you for attending. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Is there anything before I end today's class? Is there anything anyone wants to say before I end today's class? Any question, any contribution, anything? Are we all satisfied with today's class? Let me know, please, before I end it. Are we all satisfied with today's class? Did we all learn anything today? Okay, okay. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. So, guys, we will continue tomorrow. So, thank you very much and have a wonderful day and take good care of yourself. So, guys, bye.